This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by Bandzoogle, helping musicians around the world create professional artist websites. I somewhat recently moved my own artist website over to Bandzoogle. You can see it at urbanzo.com. I'm a longtime WordPress user and website designer, so trying a system like Bandzoogle was kind of a big deal to me, but I know that WordPress ain't that easy to learn, and lots of musicians have no interest in learning how to use WordPress, but will try something purported to be easy to use. Well, it doesn't get much easier than Bandzoogle. I've talked about the numerous features they have at the front end of other episodes, but after talking to Dave Kuhl, VP of Business Development with Bandzoogle, I learned about several other features that are especially interesting right now, such as crowdfunding, subscriptions, donations, and all of that without fees added. They also have tools to help you sell merch, tickets to your shows, build your email list, and more. They have support 7 days a week. So look, go to bandzoogle.com to start a 30-day free trial. You can use the promo code ROBONZO to get 15% off your first year. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO. Let's do the show. Greetings, rock stars, and welcome to another episode of The Unstarving Musician. I'm your host, Robonzo. On this podcast, I have conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals. It's all intended to help indie artists be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love, which is, of course, to make music. Do you want to help others find this podcast? You can do so by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. It really does help. The Unstarving Musician podcast is made possible through the generosity of listeners like you. One of the easiest ways to offer support is to join the Unstarving Musician community, and you can do so by going to unstarvingmusician.com and join right there on the homepage. As a member, you'll receive from me tips and lessons you can use in your music journey. And this is not just stuff coming from me and my years of experience as a gigging musician, but also from the hundreds of other musicians I've talked to as part of this project and podcast. You'll also get a free copy of the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs ebook. And that is all free just for being part of the community. To learn more about the other ways of offering your support, please visit our sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowdsponsor. My guest for this episode was featured back in episode 38 of The Unstarving Musician. She is a producer, singer, songwriter, educator, and wellness practitioner, among other things. Her name is Liz Cirelli, by the way. She has so much going on, it makes my head spin. 2 relatively new releases, more on the way, and I'm talking albums here. Upcoming performance obligations she'll record from her home studio, I presume. A music production school. She also manages an active and healthy Facebook community called Daydream Believers. She was in a growth phase when we spoke last time, and she's still growing, but she's all grown up at the same time. She has wisely assembled a small team to help her accomplish all that she wants to accomplish. We talk about the organic nature in which that team building happened. I wanted to have her back because at the time of this interview, she was on the cusp of launching a 6-month music production course. The timing seemed perfect to me, given worldwide changes in how musicians conduct the business of their music. In reality, Liz has been relatively unaffected by our new world. Perhaps to make your jaw drop a bit, she lives in a remote village of Italy, one of the hardest hit countries. At any rate, I'm so happy for her. We discussed the evolution of her forthcoming courses, her latest releases. Perhaps the most important lesson here is taken from the fact that Liz recognizes her own limitations, even though she pushes herself to the creative and giving extremes. Here is me and Liz Cirelli.
I'm going to be doing an ambient DJ mix, and I was supposed to be doing a live show for Scala Radio, which are a national radio station in the UK, but obviously because of what's happening with the virus, they've asked me to submit them to recordings of a live performance. So I'm just basically going to perform the tracks live in my studio and record that. So those are 2 quite nice things that are happening.
Are you ready then?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, we're rolling, and I hit record again. That's good, right?
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, so last time when we recorded our last conversation, that was January 29 of 2018 for episode 38. I'm almost, and you may be I'm not sure, but I'm not looking at the numbers or the production sheet, but you may be 150.
Oh, wow.
But it's a long time ago, feels like, huh?
Time and episodes fly.
I know, and you've had so much going on. One of the things that happened and was actually happening when we spoke the last time was the Art is Dead soundtrack. And that's all done and out there for everyone to enjoy. Are you doing...
Yes.
Well, the thing I really wanted to ask you about it, and I'd love for you to talk about it if you want to revisit your memories from it, assuming it's sort of back there already, but are you doing any other soundtrack work these days?
I soon after I did Art is Dead, actually, I wrote the soundtrack for a short film called Triskelion, which is now a multi-award-winning short film.
Nice.
So that was really interesting. It was actually with for somebody that I've collaborated with for a long time. He was doing this project and he asked me to get involved because he was just like, I just know that you're going to deliver what I want on this. So we've done many projects together, and he's a brilliant director, but he has a very particular language that he uses, and not all composers that he works with really understand him, but I do. For some reason, he'll describe things in a very direct way, in a very visual way. So he'll describe like what he wants to achieve with the audio in a very visual way, because that's his art, right? He's a visual person. And somehow I managed to kind of be like, okay, so you mean you want delay on that thing? He's like, yeah, that's it.
Wow.
So that was really fun. So we did that all remotely. That slowly came together. It's quite dark, but it's all about different aspects. Well, in this particular, it's about 3 different aspects of a girl's personality, and how like the 2 other aspects of this girl's personality have to die in order for her to kind of step into her greatness and, you know, embody her fullness. I really enjoyed working on the soundtrack, but it is quite dark. So if anyone wants to go and take a look, I think it is out there in the world now. I'm not entirely sure. We had to keep it kind of top secret for a while, just because of it getting sent to award ceremonies and things like that. But I think it's out and ready to view. I'm not sure. I'm not entirely sure.
Well, we'll figure that out to put it in the show notes if we can. If we're allowed to do it yet.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, here's something a little tragic. My wife and I were in Italy June of last year, and I was just realizing before we got on our call today, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot Liz could have been there. I don't know that we got close to you, though. I'm kind of looking around where we were. Maybe that the closest we got to you was Rome. We started in Venice and went to Florence and spent a good amount of our time in Greve, wine country, which was really beautiful. And then it looks like Rome was the closest that we got to you. But man,
so you're still like a good 5 hours away.
Yeah, I still wish that I would have thought. I really want to go back.
Yeah, it would have been. Oh, please do, yeah. And let me know.
I will. I won't forget this time.
my partner, actually, he lives in Bologna, very near Bologna. So I know that where I am is quite remote, but we could. Like if you wanted to kind of be further up north, we could maybe meet in Bologna and maybe take a road trip together down here, and I could show you Puglia. That would be lovely. Yeah,
and your village, I recall. Sounds pretty neat, pretty sweet. So it is. That would be a blast to see it someday.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful little place. It's really. I guess it's kind of quintessentially Italian, because it's a very traditional little place, and I don't think much has changed here in the last 100 100 years.
As seems, for someone who was there for the first time, it seemed that a lot was, some of the things that I saw were that way. So, well, that's cool that you got to do and can you spell the name of the film that you just told me about?
Yeah. It's Triskelion. So it's Triskelion.
Look at that. I was really close somehow.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, I want to check that out. So, and then I noticed most recently anyway on the Spotify, you have a collection of remixes, and I'm afraid to try and pronounce the title of the album. Can you say it for me?
Which one? Cepheid?
Yes, thank you. That's what I thought it was too.
Okay.
I should have just went for it and said, I think it's Cepheid.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Again, I don't know if you recall, a lot of what you do is really still outside of my my listening world up until I started the podcast, and I still, feel like I'm tippy-toeing into it. I've had another artist who is in, and this is mostly just for lack of a proper description, but has kind of been in the world of DJ and other things not too dissimilar from what you have been into and are into. And she's in Nashville. But anyway, tell me about Cepheid.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a really lovely story, actually. So basically, the original of Cepheid came out in 2009, and it was one of my first dance music releases as a producer. I'd released dance music as a featured vocalist, but not as a producer. And it got released on Mirabilis Records, which is the label that released the remix as well. And I've had this long-standing fan called The Wash. His artist name is The Wash. And even when I stopped kind of making dance music and stopped DJing, he still kept following me, and it was just like, I really love what you're doing now. I really love Awakening. It's really different, but it's really gorgeous music. And we've always kind of kept in touch, and I've always responded to his messages and things. And then he just randomly sent a message to Alex, who owns Mirabilis Records, and I've also kind of loosely kept in touch with Alex and all the record labels that I used to release with when I was DJing. And so the Wash sends this email to Alex and says, look, I really love Cepheid. Can I please just create a remix? Would it be okay with both of you if I just created a remix for my own personal use? I'm happy to sign a contract to say that I won't release it and I won't share it. And Alex, I was just like, yeah, definitely go for it, And Alex was like, well, hang on a minute. He's like, that was a really good tune. Like, why? He was like, that's a classic now. Why don't we actually make this into a project? And I'd be happy to release an EP of remixes. He was like, The Wash, why don't you do one? Liz, if you want to do one, and I'll find a couple of other artists as well to make it a proper 4-track EP. And so I was like, okay. I was like, I haven't released any dance music in a while, but yeah, sure, why not? And that actually sparked a friendship between me and The Wash. And he and I, along with another DJ producer friend of ours, are actually now setting up our own record label. So that's another lovely little project that kind of has started to grow as a result of this one email.
Wow.
And yeah, when I was working on my remix, it just felt like coming home for me, I guess, because dance music for me, it's not just something I listen to. Actually, my partner kind of says it to me as well. He's like, it's your soul, it's part of your soul. Dance music is part of your soul, and it really felt that way when I was working on this remix. I guess because it's so familiar, because I have written quite a lot of dance music, it just felt, I don't want to say easy or comfortable because they imply laziness, but it just felt nourishing, I suppose is the right word, to be making this style of music again. And it actually made me realise how much I've missed making this style of music. As my partner says, it's part of my soul. And I think I had kind of forgotten that in my quest to explore other genres of music. So it feels really nice to have come full circle again, making dance music with all of the knowledge that I've gained through all of the other projects that I've been working on over the since I guess 2015, because that was my last dance music release. So over the last 5 years. It was fun. It was great fun, and it feels really nice to be releasing with Mirabilis again after all these years, and to have kept that relationship alive, and to have now a really good friendship with the Wash as well. You know, it's so many beautiful things have come from this one release. So
it's cool. I love
really,
that.
really lovely,
and I hope that somehow it creeps into your upcoming works, the sort of rekindled aspect of dance, since it makes you so happy. And then
definitely
you also have a new work with Minski, Liz Cirelli and Minski.
Yes.
Yeah, fill me in on that one. It's a lovely creation.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So Minski and I have been working together for about 10 years, and the album, well, just over 10 years now. The album is actually a celebration of our 10-year collaboration, and it's a collection of work that was created between 2011 and 2015 that never got released. And one day I was just going through his and my music, and I was like, dude, do you realize we have over an album's worth of unreleased material? And he was like, really? And I was like, yes. And he was like, I sent it to him via Dropbox, and obviously he knows all the tracks. So he was like, oh my God, these are really good. We should get these out there. And I'm like, yeah, we should. And he was like, look, I'm not really sure if I'm, in the space creatively to actually do a full release. But he was like, why don't you share them to your community on Patreon? And so I was like, yeah, okay, I will. And I said, look, I've learned a lot as an engineer, mixing and mastering engineer, since these tracks were last given a mix and master. So I said, look, would you be happy for me to just give them a quick polish? And he was like, yeah, definitely, do definitely. So I did that, and I was sharing them to my Patreon, and I was kind of, sharing them to him as well. And, I kind of finished sharing them to my Patreon community. And then, Minski had the entire collection as well. And he was like, Liz, these are sounding really good. He's like, what have you done to them? They're really, really fantastic. He's like, they were fantastic tunes in the first place, but now they're sounding really fantastic. Mm-hmm. He was like, look, why don't you put them on your Bandcamp page as well? Like, it seems a shame to just, keep the doors closed on these tracks. And so I was like, okay, cool, I have to email my, make sure that that's okay, my Patreon community, because they were initially meant as a Patreon exclusive. And obviously everyone in my Patreon was just like, hell no, release them, we don't want to keep, put them out there. So, I spoke to Minski, and I was like, look, if I'm going to put them on my Bandcamp page, I might as well put them on Spotify and Apple Music and everywhere else as well. And he was like, yeah, okay, if it's not too much trouble, go ahead and do that. And I was like, yeah, no, it's fine. So that's what I did. And that's now how the album exists. Thanks to the lovely folks at Amuse, who are just a wonderful digital distributor, very artist friendly. So, I uploaded the tracks to Amuse, and they did the rest. They put it out there for me. So,
unearthing all this great stuff.
Yeah, and do you know what? It feels really good. Like, I finally released all of the old stuff that I had on my computer. That I wanted to release. So yeah, it feels really good to finally kind of have that back catalogue out there in the big wide world, for people to discover.
Did it just take?
And it's amazing.
Did it in both cases? Did it just take those conversations, or I guess with Minski, you had some sort of inspiration on your own, it seems, and then the conversation was really encouraging, but then with in contrast with the Wash, it was an inbound conversation that inspired you. Do you think, I guess neither of those could have happened without that? Were there any other forces at work that brought stuff out that was just sitting, as you say, on your computer?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, obviously, I've got a manager now, so she's kind of a force of nature that forces lots of stuff out of me.
Did she come along since we spoke last in 2018?
Yes, yeah, she came along actually last year, and has been whipping me into shape ever since.
How did you find each other?
So this is also another really lovely story. She's actually a friend of mine. We met, when did we meet? We probably met about 6 years ago, through yoga and healing, actually, because at the time I was running a yoga and wellness company with a friend of mine who's a raw food chef, and we were kind of hosting retreats here in Italy. And a lovely chap who used to attend my yoga classes when I was teaching in London got in touch with me, and he's just like, look, my friend Co, that's her name, is putting on a raw food festival, and she's looking for yoga and wellness and raw food people, and you and Alwyn, who was my business partner, really sprang to mind. He was like, look, just tell her that I put you in touch, get in touch with her. And so we had a Skype, and she was just like, yeah, you're cool, I really like you, I'd love for you to get involved in my festival. And so Alwyn and I ended up having a stall at her festival, and then she and I just became really good friends. Like a series of things just happened that kind of really just catapulted each other into the realm of friendship, and this really strong friendship kind of formed very, very quickly. And she actually started to tell me about her life working in the music business. And she used to manage Bjork, and she's also managed Massive Attack and Portishead and a kind of really big artists. And that was kind of back in the 90s. And kind of a series of things happened in her personal life that made her realize that the toxicity of the music industry wasn't really, it wasn't helping her in that particular place in her life. And so she kind of bowed out and took a more spiritual route in life. And it was strange though, because the conversations that I was having with her about the music industry were making, because at this time I wasn't really doing much in music anymore. I had kind of quit it to run my yoga business and pursue a career in healing instead. And it was really strange, because when I was talking to Ko about her experiences in the music industry, I could feel this kind of uneasiness within me, and I wasn't really sure what it was. And then one day this massive penny dropped, and I realized, I was like, oh my God, I need to be making music. Like I shouldn't have quit, but like I need to get back to writing music again. And so I did, and I started to DJ a bit more again. And I actually asked Ko at the time, I was like, look, would you be interested in managing me? And she looked at me and she was like, Liz, I love you, but you're not ready. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, kind of a bit put out by it. I was like, okay, fine.
Sure.
Whatever, and then Awakening got released, my album, in 2018, and then I had tried to do the PR for it for myself and realised that I didn't really have the bandwidth to do it, and so I started to look for a PR company, and I put a shout out on Facebook, and I have a really lovely community of people on Facebook. And one of my friends from London, who is a former Radio 1 DJ, replied, and he was just like, work with these guys. And so he put me in touch with, and they're actually a radio plugger company, but they're really well connected in the music industry. And so he linked me up with this radio plugging agency, and I started to work with them. And Ko called me one day just for a friendly catch up. And, I was telling her I was doing this and this and this and this. And she was like, oh, my God, you need a manager. And I was like, yeah, I've been thinking that now's probably the right time for me to start looking for one. And I said to her, do you know anyone that would be interested? Not hinting. And the line went quiet for a bit. And she was just like, fuck it, I'll do it. I'll manage you. And I was like, dude, really? And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. And she was like, you've really put in a lot of work. You know, you've really committed to making this happen. She was like, yeah, I'll do it. And so we've been working together since last May. And it's great because we are really good friends as well. And we get each other. And she understands me when I'm having wobbles, and I understand her when she's having wobbles. And I really feel like we're a really strong team. And I guess most importantly, I know I can trust her with my life, you know, as well as my career. So it's great. I mean, she works me super hard.
And where is she helping you the musically or career-wise? Where is she helping you the most?
I think she's really helping me to up my game in the studio, and you know, because everything that I produce, she's like, you know, send it to me. She's like, even if it's in a draft, she's like, I don't necessarily want to hear final masters. Send me work in progress tracks. And the way that she critiques my tracks it's very unforgiving, but I love that because it's really forcing me to create excellent music, which is what I want, you know, because for me, it's all about the music, you know, and however better I can serve the art of music as a producer of music, great, you know, and the more people I have on my team that are pushing me, you know, kind of ever more into that space, it's great in my book. And yeah, she's just, you know, she's great, obviously, with strategy and all the kind of businessy side of things that I've realised that I'm not excellent at. You know, I can do it, but her skill, you know, she's highly skilled in business, and it's just great to have somebody that has that talent on your side, you know, because she can see things in the business arena that I can't, and it's great to have that. I call her my mama bear. She's just fantastic.
You know, speaking of bandwidth,
yes,
I'm looking at, so there's a lot of stuff you have going on still. I don't know if it's an ever-expanding world. So I'm looking at Patreon, by the way.
It seems to be, yes.
Yeah, I love the memberships here, by the way, with the different Dreamer memberships. But
oh, thank you.
Yeah, let's start there. How long ago did you start your Patreon page?
I think it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Now. Yeah, I think it'll be 2 years in May.
Do you get to devote? Well, this is not a good question because I think the answer is almost always. Well, I'll just ask it. Do you get to devote the time you feel like it deserves? You know, for yourself, or maybe I should say, are you able to devote the time that you want to devote to it?
Yes and no. I guess because I am super productive and I always have something to share.
Oh, awesome.
For me, it's just a great outlet to have. And I guess, I mean, I often kind of talk to the people on my Patreon page as well. And a lot of them are like, you know, because sometimes I may miss a post and they're like, Liz, we don't care. We're just here because we love you. They're like, give us content or don't, like, just carry on doing what you do.
Mm-hmm, that's sweet.
And that's so sweet, you know, and it's so lovely. It's so lovely just to know that what you do means that much to somebody, you know. So I'm really humbled by the beautiful people in that community, because they really have my back and they want what's best for me as well.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I do. I try to make as much time as possible for them.
And then really speaking of community and commitment, so you created one, I think in 2018, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not looking at the startup date, but the Facebook group, the Daydreamers Facebook group. And
yeah, Daydream Believers.
Yeah, thank you. And it's taken on a life of its own, which is good. It's kind of what you want from a Facebook group. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's... Go ahead.
So carry on.
I was going to add, you're still in there. I thought, oh, she didn't even have to be in here now. That's awesome. But you're in there.
Oh, inside Daydream Believers. Oh, yeah, no. Like, it's really, that's a place where I feel that I'm not in enough. Because I do, it's like my little baby. Daydream Believers is like my little baby. And sometimes I forget to be present in there. But it's got a group of amazing core members that are so passionate about the group. And actually recently I was feeling like, this group it's kind of lost its spark a little bit. And I was kind of assigning that to the fact that I hadn't been in there quite as often or as much as I perhaps wanted to be. And so I started to chat to one of the original members of the group, and he's a super helpful guy anyway. And he kind of, was kind of throwing ideas at me on how to help revamp the group a little bit. And I was like, do you know what, Matt? I don't think I've got the bandwidth to kind of really do a good job of revamping the group by myself. And he was just like, no, look, I'll help. And then, another member stepped in to help. And then I kind of, in the end, I set up a group chat on Facebook. Did I, or did one of the group members? I can't remember. But anyway, a little group chat on Facebook was set up with a few of the original members in there. And now we all have a conversation going between ourselves on what we can do to kind of add a little bit more rainbow shine to Daydream Believers again.
Nice.
And it's fantastic. Again, it's like, it just makes me really happy when members of the community kind of step up to the plate and offer to help make some beneficial changes in the group. So yeah, that's great. So yeah, so some interesting changes should be happening inside there over the next few weeks.
I'm happy to hear that, mostly because I know, not because I'm like, yeah, man, it was really sort of starting to lose its luster, but
it sucked in there.
Not at all. And in fact, I'm a horrible member. I was kind of in there today for the first time in forever, and I was like, oh, wow, it's so active. This is great. And I was watching some guy in there do something that I assuming was, what's the word I'm looking for? Not campy, cheeky. He was showing some horrible food video, and he was very upset about it. But anyway, I know that's not what the group's about. But anyway, I was looking at some other stuff, and there looks very interesting, and they look very alive. Thanks to you and those of you who are in there. And then the Cirelli School of Music just spun up, right?
It did, and that's something that Co is pushing out of me, because she's really good at seeing talents in me that I don't necessarily kind of acknowledge myself, or you can kind of get tunnel vision a little bit, and you're like, no, I want to just focus on this one thing and just do this, and she's just like, yeah, but Liz, you have all these other gifts that you're not sharing, or that you are, because you've got Daydream Believers, and obviously you teach music production as well. But she was like, look, why don't we make this a proper thing? And I was like, oh my god, how do we do that, and so she's literally been hand holding me through setting the Cirelli School of Music up. And
that's pretty awesome.
She's got this incredible team as well that is supporting me through getting it set up, because it's quite a process.
Sure. I can imagine. I have all. I've been asking a lot of people, what are you doing differently? And we should talk about that in your world too. But under the new circumstances in which we find ourselves, and a lot of people for the first time are thinking of doing things like teaching online, and I pointed them to some people that I've met recently through the podcast that are doing it at a pretty high level. But, having been around these people and looked into it, I know there are a lot of pieces to doing it right. Sort of like with anything you want to do well, right? But if you've been focused on, say, making music or performing it, and doing, maybe you've been teaching in, one-on-one, and you thought maybe you'd do some Skype maybe one of these days, but it is, can be overwhelming. So, I totally get how wonderful it must be to have a team, however big or small, helping you out.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. How many people? I have probably about 6 people now in my team, including like my assistant and my own intern, and then and then her business partner who is helping me with the marketing side of things, and then her assistant, and then I think they've got interns working for them as well. So yeah, that's at least 6 people, and I often say to my assistant and my intern, like, I do not know what I'd be doing without you guys now, because even with all those people, I still feel like my head is going to explode sometimes.
I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, I'm about halfway through the list of things you have going on, it feels like.
Yeah.
So, well, and did you just sort of do or kick off your first class this week?
Yes, actually, and it was really serendipitous, because it wasn't actually part of my own course. It was part of something else that has it's part of basically it's part of a platform, I suppose, that's a little bit like Netflix for music producers, and they their members kind of pay a monthly subscription, and then they just provide workshops that their members can either tune into live, or they can access the recording of it at their own leisure, like Netflix. And it just so happened that somebody that I'm working with on another project, it's a kind of this chap has just developed a mindfulness and meditation app, and got introduced to me through one of my friends back in London, because he was looking for healing music, and I have a 90-minute healing soundscape that has healing frequencies interwoven into it. And so I've been working with him on getting my healing soundscape up on his app, which is called Maya, and I'm also going to be writing a blog post for him to go up on the Mayo website. And he and Co and I had a group call. And during the call, Co mentioned that I was setting up the Cirelli School of Music. And he was like, "Oh, that's great. Fantastic. Congratulations." And then he said, "Oh, actually, I've got something that might be of interest to you." So he forwarded me this message that he had received. And it was basically the chap that's behind this platform called Mixmasters, a guy called Danny, was looking for female music producers to present webinars, workshops, specifically for this week, because this week was their female music producer week. And this happened super quickly. So I had Co and I had a call with Danny on Sunday last week, and fast forward to last night, I taught the class.
Wow.
So that happened super quickly, and it was the first kind of class that I taught. I teach a lot one-to-one, but I hadn't really given a proper class to several people, and it was fantastic. I had such a good time, and I've been getting some really positive feedback. They've got like a private group on Facebook that they invited me to, and I just kind of said, "Thanks so much for having me," and everyone was just like, "Oh my god, it was a brilliant webinar, well done." And that just makes me really happy to know that I'm helping other people pursue their passion for music. So that was my first taste of it, and co-tuned in, and one of my private music production students tuned in, and they were both like, "Oh my god, Liz, like you were totally in your element, like you were really shining." And so it's made me really pumped, actually even more pumped, to launch the Cirelli School of Music as well. So it's
yeah, that's cool. So it lent itself to, I guess, if nothing else, sort of helped you roll into your own music school project.
Yeah.
With I don't know, just feeling jazzed, and again, gave you some outside street cred, right? All of a sudden.
Yeah. I think so. And it's, I think it's just a really lovely way to connect with people as well, rather than, I try not to be that music artist that's constantly promoting her own music. I do really try to give content of value on my social media platforms. But it just feels nicer to kind of go a little bit deeper with that and actually really do something proactive to help other people who are wanting to pursue or follow their curiosity or their passion for music. And I've realized I do have a lot of experience, and I don't just have experience in music. I've got experience in, healing and wellness and mindfulness through my years of teaching yoga. And I've also got years of experience from when I was in performing arts school that have lent me, certain ways of thinking that are required, like certain disciplines that you need to adopt in order to become good at honing a skill and polishing a craft. And it's, I was kind of talking to one of my friends today, is like I feel like I'm at a point in my life now where I can look back and be like, oh yeah, I see now how I had to have all those experiences to package me into what I am today, so that then I can now offer all this stuff to other people. And that's a really nice place to be. Sure.
And I've spoken to, I was going to say a couple, but probably several artists I've had on the podcast about trying to trace their careers. And a lot of times they think back, when asked that, they think back and they have to sort of backtrack and figure out how things happen. But clearly, when they sort of piece the story together for me, it's a culmination of experiences, which, obviously, but it's just kind of fun to walk through that exercise with you. And you just did it for me in kind of a different way. I didn't ask the same question. We sort of got a little bit, and some of it is coming from my memory of having spoken with you before, because of when we first spoke, you were coming into a new year. We reflected on some time you spent with a mentor, I think in California, or you had there was some
Gary.
California connection. And a lot of work that you did to up your game in production at the time. And then you must have been working on Awakening at that time, and have since, another thing that I feel like you've been working on in kind of a short couple of years that since we've spoken, Awakening, and really showcasing your vocals again, which is awesome. There's a lot of stuff you do is wonderful, but void of your vocals, because it's just kind of diving into the other things that you really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So, that's really cool. So what are you? I know before I was in the official recording in my mind, because I was testing some audio when we first started talking. You were telling me, refreshing my memory about the small village that you're in, and we were, talking about quarantine and all that, and you guys are being contained there out of necessity. And I kind of know, or my recollection of your life in Italy anyway, was of a lot of in the studio time. Yeah, and that may have been, that memory may be a product of where you were, but in early on in our conversation, I don't remember if we were actually recording for our conversation to present to the wild in the future, but you mentioned, kind of being head down in the studio a lot at your home in Italy. And I assume it's kind of been the same, but are you doing, I know you're doing some things differently because you mentioned those too, but can you talk a bit about some of the things that you are doing differently, or you anticipate doing a little differently given the new circumstances that we're talking about in April 2020?
To be really honest, my life hasn't changed that much, because I wasn't really gigging. Mm-hmm. I was getting ready to do live stream gigs. I suppose I was just about to start dipping my toe into doing live shows, like proper live shows, because I had been invited to perform at Scala Radio, which is a national radio station in the UK. They'd picked up, my radio pluggers had passed them one of the tracks from the Minski album, and they loved it, so they started supporting it. And then they said, would you guys want to come and perform for us, for a live session? So that's obviously had to be cancelled. And there was also another live show that I was supposed to be performing in London, again, that my radio pluggers had set up, and that has had to be cancelled. So those two things have changed. So I guess my focus has shifted from getting ready to perform those live shows to setting up the Cirelli School of Music. And that was already going to get set up anyway. That, like Co had already suggested it, and we were already investing our time and energy into creating it before, like, the whole virus thing exploded. It's just kind of really strange timing that just at the point where we were ready to kind of that we're getting ready to open our doors, that, quarantine happened and everything all of a sudden went online. So I guess that was just a bit of kind of odd luck, if you want to call it that. I don't really want to kind of frame it that way, but yeah, I mean, the other thing that's changing is now that I'm going to start doing live DJ sets, like live streaming DJ sets. And Co and I are still figuring out how that's actually going to work, whether it's going to be more healing, ambient.
No, it's got to be Friday Night Dance. No.
The Friday Night Dance. Okay,
yes.
I was Co like, no. Look, I've been tipped off. It needs to be Friday Night Dance. So
please.
So yeah, I was thinking, like a combination of a bit of everything. I've actually been tuning into John Digweed's live streams because he's one of my favorite DJs.
How do you spell his name?
John, so it's John, and then Digweed is Digweed. He's like a progressive house legend. You speak to anyone who loves progressive house and they'll be like, yeah, John Digweed's like at the top of the progressive house tree. Yeah, I mean, I used to go clubbing to see his sets regularly when I lived in London. And it's, for me, actually, I'm actually really loving quarantine because it means that I don't have FOMO anymore, because all of my favourite DJs now are doing live streaming. So every Saturday night I tune into John Digweed from the comfort of my bed. And if he plays a particularly good tune, then I jump out and have a dance. And some of my friends are there because he's doing it on Facebook. I think he might be moving over to Twitch because Facebook have been giving him some issues. But yeah, like there are people there in the chat, and you see some people and you see some people that that you haven't spoken to in ages, and you get that community kind of vibe. It's almost like you're in a nightclub, again.
Cool.
Which is really cool, yeah. Like I was like, I haven't had this much fun here since ever. it's quite special. So there's DJ sets on the cards as well, and I am still looking at developing a live show from more kind of how do I put this, like a musician kind of standpoint as well. But that's kind of been put a little bit on the back burner now, I think, just purely because I'm juggling quite a lot of balls already.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I can't wait to check out his work. Do you think that the circle that is your community, and I guess I was going to say social circle, but not really. But, the people you were just talking about that you run into, that, faces you recognize, are a lot of, or most of them, or a large percentage of them, much like yourself in the type of things they're doing creatively, and the reason I ask is, are a lot of them experiencing this possibly in a very similar way that you are, and by this I'm referring to a quarantine, or
Yeah.
or is it likely that many of them were performing, live a lot, and that was a big thing for them, so they're making, surprise adjustments?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of people I know that haven't really been affected, but a lot of DJs, especially that I know, have been massively affected by it, because obviously, Miami, the Miami Winter Music Conference was supposed to happen in March, which is a huge dance music thing where all of the big DJs kind of play. I'm pretty sure John Digweed would have been booked to play there. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people are having to reassess. I know a few musicians that I work with have basically, their income stream has completely dried up because all of their work stopped. And so a few have had to go and get other jobs just to keep the money rolling in. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's for the people that work in the live scene, either as session musicians or that, were very active as DJs playing regular gigs. It's really affected them. It's really,
Sure.
Brought some pretty profound changes into their lives.
Well, that makes sense. Now that you're just barely describing the normal music life for some of your peers or friends, because not all of them are immersed in it the way that you are, with the diversity of and so heavily into producing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. So back to John Digweed. He's doing his things on Saturdays and on Facebook Live, but they might move over to Twitch, or they have.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I need to check him on his Facebook page, but he had some real technical issues. Well, he's always having technical issues. Like his streams keep getting cut, basically, so he has to kind of start them again, and then we all have to be like, "Oh, what's happened to the stream? Oh, what's going on?" So I think Twitch is more stable because obviously that's what it's built for, live streams. So
I'm sure Facebook got caught by total surprise too for the increased demand.
For sure. And they've got a strange thing actually going on with kind of copyright issues. So DJs that are playing are basically, the Facebook algorithms off, or whatever, maybe it's not an algorithm thing, maybe it is, but they're flagging tracks. Mm-hmm. And I think the DJ gets a notification on Facebook saying, in the middle, can you imagine you're in the middle of streaming a live set and Facebook kind of pings up this notification saying, "Oh, you're playing copyrighted material, this stream will be terminated." So I think they need to sort that out, really. They need to get some sort of license to enable DJs to stream, because at the moment it looks like they don't have the proper licenses. So technically DJs are infringing copyright by streaming DJ sets through Facebook. Yeah,
and hopefully they're not experiencing something, and they may very well be, but like in podcasting, there are a couple of companies maybe, but there's at least one that has, of course, designed some sophisticated software to go out and troll podcasts for music, and likely they err on the side of caution, meaning that anytime they hear it, they're going to assume there's potential copyright violation. And I mean, even to the point, like having any music at all on my podcast has always been a thing. And I think maybe we featured one of your tracks, a clip of your track. I don't recall for sure in our last conversation. And I'd done several, but I finally was like, you know what, I'm not going to do it anymore. It's not worth it. Unfortunately, I put too much work into creating all these episodes to have the whole thing shut down by like Spotify because some third party has come and flagged my podcast is potentially violating music rights, copyright, all that stuff. So Yeah, hopefully it's a little more manageable on Facebook. But lovely that Twitch has come along and was sort of built for exactly the kind of thing that he's doing. So it should be a good move if it works out. So
we'll see how it goes. I'll check in for my updates tomorrow and see where we're at.
Yeah, let me know. I'm going to try and figure it out. I was looking at his Facebook page. I'd love to check one of them out. But if you have time and find out, just send me a message. I'd love to know. And
I will definitely
check one of his out. So what is on deck for the Cirelli School of Music for the next week or the next month?
I think so. For the next week, we're all working on getting me up on various different teaching platforms like Udemy and Creative Live and things like that. Because we were originally going to host it all on my website, and then we realised, oh, hang on, this might not actually work.
Sure.
So we had to kind of change plans a little bit, rethink, and so now it's just a case of getting everything up on the relevant platforms so that I can open my doors and start teaching, and we are set to go at the end of the month.
Cool.
And if all goes to plan, then within a month, I would have, by the end of May, I would have delivered my first 4 weeks of content. So it will run once a week. Lessons will run once a week, and homework will be given in order to help students consolidate what they've learned. And it will run for 6 months.
So for anybody who's kind of listening in, maybe they know you or they totally get what you do, but they didn't know who you were before they were listening to this. Give us the 30,000-foot overview of what they learn in the school. And I know they can find you on lizcirelli.com right now, and they probably still will be able to find out where to get involved in the courses there anyway, even though you'll move the heavy content to the right places. But tell us what one can be expected to learn in one of your courses.
Yeah, cool. So this is going to be the first of probably many courses. This is basically a music production course that has been built to get anybody set up to create music. And when I say anybody, it can be somebody who's already a producer but maybe wants to brush up their studio skills, or somebody who's a total novice and has a curiosity, a hobbyist who just feels like they want to take things a little bit deeper, somebody who knows nothing about any of music. So yes, I've designed it to be as educational as possible, and to be as open to novices as much as possible as well. We'll be covering the basics of music theory in this course, because in my opinion, it's impossible to write music that really touches people's souls unless you know at least the basics of the basic rules of music making. And, some people just say, well, I like to break the rules. And my argument is, yes, but you need to know the rules in order to break them. So, yes, we will be covering music theory and then music production as well. And I've built the music production leg of the course specifically, again, to be open, so that anybody that's using any DAW or music production software will be able to use it. They don't necessarily have to use the same DAW that I use. And along the way, we'll be covering things like how to write really catchy hooks and riffs. We'll be covering things like chord progressions, basic synthesis, how to write bass lines that you can hear on laptops, how to create professional sounding mixes, even when you're not necessarily in a recording studio. So I'll be giving people tips and tricks on, just how to build their confidence as mixers of their own tunes. Also be exploring a little bit on vocal engineering and recording, and touching on a few advanced engineering tips and tricks as well, like routing, different ways of routing your channels to create breadth and depth in your mix. So it's quite a full course. That's why it's 6 months, because it covers a lot. And even then, there could be parts 2 and 3 to this course quite easily, because I could go much further down each respective rabbit hole.
Yeah. Well, it sounds very accessible. I guess is a good word for people who, like you said, you want to make it for anybody who wants to be able to do it well. And I could see that it could turn to more advanced level things in the future. And it sounds like you have, and is based on what I know about you, it sounds like you, and I'm confident you've given your team a lot of really good stuff to market to help you make this school a success. I wish you tons and tons of luck. I'll be watching.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really excited to share it, actually. Yeah.
And you know what, one last thing, completely non-related, but I wanted to tell you that I love the latest photos that you've released, which you did not have the first time we spoke. Yeah, they're very cool. They kind of speak, for me, they speak to your art in many ways. I like them.
Yeah. They were taken by my partner, Rodri, and it really, it makes a difference when your photographer is the person you love and the person that loves you as well, because I described to him what I wanted to portray in my shots, and he got it, because he understands me. And so, when we saw the shots, we were both kind of like, wow, he did a really, really fantastic job. So, yeah.
I love it. He did great.
Thank you. I'll tell him. He'll be really, really pleased.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And as an indie podcaster, it's really, you've always had a lot going on online, but, having nice, high quality, and not just high quality images or photos of yourself, but also some that are, like what you have now. They're creative, they're beautiful, and that just makes all those little things make my life so much easier when I'm putting together the final, package for the episode and promoting it and all that. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Plus awesome. I just, hey, they're just great. Great to see you that way. Liz, thank you for spending time with me. I doing this gives me some listening for the weekend, a lot of stuff to catch up on, and I'm excited for you with the school. I'm glad that quarantine life is having, somewhat minimal impact for you, just because of the nature of your life there. I know travel's a big thing, so when that comes back, that'll be great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only thing actually that I'm really missing is not being able to travel. But yeah, the life of a studio hermit doesn't really change much when you're in quarantine.
You little hermit. Well, and you're so otherwise gregarious, because I see you, all the time online, and you're doing these this educational content, so it's fantastic. And yes, lovely time speaking with you again. I will absolutely be chatting with you soon as we release this into the wild. And so I guess last question, do you have any releases that are going to come out maybe in the next 3 months that I should know about? Listen to me, yes, you should know about them if you're on my Patreon.
I do. I'm going to be releasing an EP of remixes from my Awakening album.
Cool.
And then following on I'm actually working on some new material as well. And I think after the Awakening EP, I'll probably release a few singles. And then we'll see where that all goes. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be more music happening. So, yeah.
I look forward to it. I'll be watching it. And you're in my inbox regularly, so I'll find out about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. One way or another, you'll find out.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a lovely weekend. Thank you again.
You too. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Hey, thanks again for listening. If you are loving the podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the various ways that you can offer your support. And again, if you're a listener, I consider you a supporter, especially if you shared it with a friend. Thank you. Look for show notes and links to most everything mentioned in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. Thanks so much for listening. With a whole lot of gratitude, peace, love, and more cowbell. Hey there, one last thing before you go. At the time of this recording, music artists and other creators are facing unusual and uncertain times. I'd like to help out if I can. My contribution is to offer you an opportunity to work with me in a coaching capacity and to only pay what you can afford if you can afford to pay anything at all. Think of it as a virtual tip jar. The point is, I'm here for you if you feel you need the help. There's a bit of a process, but it's pretty simple. Just go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching. There's a button on that page to schedule a 15-minute consult call with me. This is just a call to find out how and if I can help you, and it's also an opportunity for you to find out if you want to work with me and for me to find out if I want to work with you. If we both feel good about it, we'll schedule your sessions, and I'll also answer any questions you have about how it works, including the pay what you want or what you can afford tip jar thing. So go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to learn more. I'll have a limited number of slots, obviously, so if this sounds like something you can use right now, go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to learn more and or to get started. Ciao.